Hello, welcome back. This is Local Tico Brohe. Today we are bringing you a Mystic Knight run where we use just the shield. It's actually a really fun run. It is slow though. Starting off with our gear, most of our stuff's cosmetic, however these gloves are the most important aspect of our setup. They are the Bitterblack Armor Level 3 gloves that give us increased effectiveness of shield and magic shield abilities. We also have the level 3 boots to give us stability, although we chose them because they match the gloves cosmetically. Rings wise, we have ability rings for the fire, lightning, and frost riposte abilities, double barbed nails, double bloody knuckles, because that increases shield damage for just the physical deflection portion, not the magical. And abilities, we just have flame, frost, and thunder ripostes, as I mentioned before. And then for our augments, autonomy, awareness for reduced damage, Bastion for reduced damage, one's magical, one's physical, Acuity for the magic, and then Predation is how we will heal this run. 100 health every time we kill something. Getting started with the run, as always, with the Garden of Ignominy. This run is particularly fun. We have 3 tools to use. We have to figure out strategies to use them to kill things. Here we have the goblin configuration. I like to use Blizzard Feint. Just because it does collateral damage. So for example, I blocked that guy and killed 2 of them and damaged this one. This makes it a little bit nicer. We did get hit there, but as you see, we're back to full health. This character leveled 190 levels as Mystic Knight. The first 10 levels were fighter. So we can deal very slight damage to those guys. By those guys, I mean the shamans. With ripostes. Especially if we get right up on him and we deflect. The problem is, the cast times for the shamans are actually quicker than most enemies. They usually have like an extra circle indicator that happens. The circle shows up and then it expands and then the lightning strike happens. Shamans are a little bit quicker. The circle shows up, it expands, and it strikes like at the same time. So I often just miss it because I'm not remembering the fact that they have a faster lightning strike. And that's why I got hit there. We have Bloody Knuckles for a few reasons. One of them is specifically to hit the goblins with, though. Otherwise, it's very painfully slow. Again, good use of Blizzard Feint, simply because we know we have a lot of relief worms here. If we get 1, we can hit, maybe 3. We're gonna rebuff. I always think it's really funny watching that animation of us buffing the shield when we don't have a weapon equipped. So dealing with the Chimera can be a little bit awkward. Chimera is very weak to ice. What makes it kind of awkward is if we fail to deflect extra things, by extra things I mean goblins, with the collateral hitting the Chimera, it actually becomes a little bit tricky to kill the Chimera. Damn. This ring, as you can see, has both Blizzard and Boltstorm Feint. The other ring we have has Flame. What is it? Whatever the fire version. Inferno Feint, that's what it's called. So I didn't have to change rings there to change my buff. Garm, exceptionally weak to lightning. So that's why we switched. At any rate, back to the topic at hand. On our practice runs, we had a couple times where we would kill everything else in the room This is particularly frequent with the Saurian configuration. There's just fewer of them, and it's harder to get them to attack you as aggressively in ways that you want to block them. But we would end up having no Saurian left in the room, and we would have the Gore Chimera. And what would happen is we would accidentally kill the lion, because we're riposting the lion. I guess accidentally is probably not the right word, but we would incidentally kill the lion first, along with the snake, but, you know, the lion before the goat. The problem with that is the lion before the goat means that the goat will start healing, but the lion might not be revived. The lion might just stay dead. So there are very few things that the Chimera will do that will actually allow us to riposte it. So what we had to do then was run around the Chimera, stand behind its legs, and wait for it to do like a little backwards kick at us. And that was all fine and dandy, and we were able to execute it that way, but it did make it awkward, because sometimes the lion just wouldn't want to do that, or it would do different things. And we would just have a very hard time getting our fight into a position where we are being permitted to even deflect something from the Chimera. And so we had to like figure out a way to overcome that. Fortunately, with the goblin configuration, there's so many goblins, and the goblins are pretty aggressive at pursuing you that it never became an issue, obviously, because we were able to deflect the greater goblins and hit the Chimera with the collateral from the Frost Riposte. But yeah, here we have a single Bloody Knuckle equipped, and you see how low our damage is. Mystic Knight has a really non-favorable offensive stat spread, I guess I would say. It's like a worse version of Strider in terms of offensive stat spreads. Strider gets a very balanced stat spread, so does Mystic Knight, but it's not good. So our offensive stats baseline are pretty weak. We don't have anything that's giving us strength. So obviously our strength side is pretty bad. I think the only augment we have that's providing strength as well is Autonomy, which is a good augment, don't get me wrong. It's actually a fantastic augment, but it also isn't like profoundly powerful or anything. Here, double Bloody Knuckles just because we can. We don't need the other spell buff. As I said before, we are healing with Predation augment this run. That's going to give us 100 health every time we kill something, which is true for most things. The only things that does not hold true for is corrupted pawns, I want to say, and then golems as well. Although metal golems, every medallion counts as a thing, so it gives us 100 health each medallion. The golem itself dying doesn't provide any benefit. But that means critters become a little bit more valuable, so if I wished, we could deal with them, but we'll see. That's our first room. We have, I think it's like 4280 is our maximum health, so we're not that far away. I might be wrong. Maybe it's 4820. Maybe we're 1,000 health missing, because I'm looking at that bar and it looks close to about a fifth. Which 1,000 health missing out of close to 5,000 would make sense. Okay, so we have the configuration here with the Thunder Wyvern. We're going to switch this to Ingle because we have the two gargoyles. And while they are not necessarily weak, I don't know what I'm doing now. We want lightning? Is it lightning for them? I don't remember what we do usually. I generally like the impact damage that the fire one has. I want to say lightning is quite good though. Oh yeah, the lightning one's better. The fire one I don't think kills them outright. I think it takes 2. So that was the good call, switching it to lightning. Obviously lightning's not overly useful against the dragon, however. Lightning It's not going to be useful against this dragon, as I said, but we will switch back to the Inferno Feint Ring here now that we've killed both of those. This is an exceptionally annoying dragon to kill as a shield only. There's just very little we can do to get it out of its cycle of flying up into the air. The first time is the easiest because if we grab its tail, we can climb right on up. And we can just punch him in the heart and he'll fall down because we haven't hit it yet. But before that point, it's going to be a bit of a troublesome fight. The reason it is a troublesome fight is because the standard pattern of attack for the Thunder Wyvern is to fly into the air and breathe its storm breath down at you. And as we only can perfect block to deal damage to things, I have never successfully blocked that breath. I don't know that it is actually possible. I wouldn't be surprised if it was, but the hitbox timing for it is very oddly placed that I can't figure it out. So instead, what we're going to opt for is we're going to knock it down, and then we can perfect block when it flies into the air. And we will get a riposte off. Or in this case, a feint. But we will get a deflection off. If we land that deflection, most of the time, so long as we've broken the heart, most of the time we will also strike the dragon and knock it down. So long as we land this deflect. And in this case we did. And we can also land another one when it lands. Now the trick here is that once it's on the ground, there is nothing we can do. So what we want to happen is to have the dragon land in a way that when it falls, we can deflect a second time, and that second deflection will land and hit the heart. Or the wings, or the face, something like that. I don't know why he's not flying up. There we go. Now here we have the Bloody Knuckle Ring equipped. We could switch to the Barbed Nails, and it would be a good decision just because it gives us a little bit more stagger and knockdown, which could make the difference on like a hit where we don't do as well, I guess. I don't know if it actually would make the difference, but at this moment in time, stagger's a little bit more valuable than the extra deflect damage, because the extra deflect damage is only being realized on the physical portion. It's not being realized on the magic ripostes. And we're not really hitting it with the physical portion of the deflect very often. Like there we probably did because we were right up against the wing, and the deflect probably did strike the wing. The base deflect, I mean. But it's not going to be consistent, and it also doesn't do good enough damage to make it truly valuable. That would have been a great deflection if I had landed it. You'll see I'm kind of standing off to the side. That's so that when we do get the deflect, we do hit the wing. It helps build up the stagger, which we desperately need. On top of that, it kind of makes it a weird spot. Another good spot to be is actually at its face when he does it, because you can get the deflect at his face and it accomplishes the same thing, but it's a little bit awkward. I usually will go for the wing until I get tired of how slow it is, and then I'll move to the face. The thing about being at the face is it's easier to not get the knockdown if you get the perfect block here. Now we've been in this fight for I don't know how long. A couple minutes for sure. We've made it down a health bar. partially because I'm not landing that deflect on its crash to the ground. If I land those, it speeds it up quite a lot, actually. We generally do our best damage when it's falling and hits the ground. But, you know, whatever. But anyway, my point is, this is a very long fight, just this one. And it kind of sets the tone for how the rest of the run is and why this run is so long. Looking at the runtime for this video, it's going to be about 2 hours. I think it's just shy, but really only just. And because of that, it is... There we go. Got a little bit extra damage in there. Because of the runtime being so long, and it only being like half of the run, a little bit more than, we're... You know, it asks like why is the run so long? And it's fights like this where we have to rely on our enemies to strike us in order to deal damage, but they don't strike us really. So we don't get very consistent damage. And yeah, see how much damage we did there because we were in the right spot. We got the riposte off when it crash landed, and we were able to hit the heart with it. That was great damage. We just did like a health bar right in that one set of deflections. There we did like about 2/3 of the health bar with that last set of deflections. It's quite good. If we get the deflections when it's falling to the ground, we are very, very happy. We went from being like 2 health bars in to being like 2 health bars missing to like almost 5 health bars missing in the span of like 3 knockdowns. Whereas we had probably done like 12 before that. Now, obviously, I could have the Bloody Knuckles equipped during this fight, the Bloody Knuckles equipped during this fight, and I can, in fact, I have one right now. And I could punch the dragon while it's on the ground. The reality of the situation is those punches do either 0 damage or very close to 0 damage, that it's just not really worth it. It's just not really, it's not speeding anything up. In our test runs, we did do punches there, and it's one of those times where you see the health bar like shakes whenever a creature takes damage. And you'd see the health bar shaking, but you weren't really sure if the bar was moving. Dragon keeps like rotating a little bit, which is kind of weird. That would have been a perfect deflection, like positioning wise for us if we were able to get it there. But yeah, the dragon keeps, rather than just sliding left and right when it falls, it keeps also rotating a little bit, which makes like where I need to stand less and less consistent. So you're seeing me like kind of struggle with maintaining where I need to be. That was a good hit. This is actually a pretty decent fight. This fight becomes a problem if I miss a deflection when it's flying into the air, or we get a deflection when it's flying in the air and we don't stagger it. I do believe that does happen at some point, but we have done a truly stellar job of maintaining this combination, this chain of staggers. If you deal enough damage to this dragon, by the way, you can eventually break the wings, and when you do that, the dragon won't fly back into the sky, and doing so will allow you to basically, it'll attack you on the ground, and you can get deflections while he's on the ground with you, and it obviously speeds up the fight immensely. However, on all of our practice runs, we only had that happen when the dragon had like its last health bar. So I'm not gonna, oh man. And this is where the problem rises. So I did say that I knew it was going to happen. So this isn't a surprise to me as the viewer going back and putting voiceover over my previous fight, because I did remember this happen. This happens pretty much every attempt. I don't think that it's because his stagger resistance improves. I usually actually will just miss a deflection. Here we landed the deflection, it just didn't knock him down. That's probably because we were positioned strangely. And they all hit like his hands instead of his wings or his head. I don't really know. It doesn't really matter. Ultimately he's flying. The problem now is that we just have to wait him out. We can't climb up onto his back and punch his heart like we did the first time, because we don't deal enough damage there to actually ever stagger him out of this stance. I could stay up there until I run out of all of my stamina and we will never get a knockdown. Regardless of whether we're using double bloody knuckles, double barbed nails, one of each, it just doesn't happen. Not with our stat profile. So we basically have to wait until the dragon chooses to land of its own accord. Which, if anyone's fought Thunder Wyvern before, you know that that is not a frequent decision of this dragon. Here it landed, so that's pretty exciting. That's actually a pretty good one. And we can take advantage of it immediately. We get the knockdown. I am 100% going to rebuff here. It's because I don't want it to fall. The worst thing that could happen is our buff wears off and we don't get a knockdown on the dragon because we don't have a buff shield. That is like the biggest problem we can have. Now, I didn't talk about this earlier, but the pattern at which the dragon generally will fall is one time it'll fly into the air, and when you knock it down, it'll fall to its left, and then the next time it flies into the air and you knock it down, it'll fall to its right. I don't know why, but that's what happens. The reason it's important to know that is because if I stand on the left side and I know he's going to fall to his left, and by saying left side, I mean its left, not mine. If I stand on its left side and I know it'll fall to its left, when it lands, I'm in a better position to actually get the stagger in. If I'm on the right and it's falling to the right, I'm in a better position to get the stagger, after the knockdown, when I do a riposte, I'm in a better position to actually hit it the second time in a meaningful place. So you'll see I was kind of like alternating which side I was deflecting on, but kind of standing in the same spot per each. Word of regret, this configuration, today we have ghosts. I do remember this. I'm very pleased we have the ghost configuration because we have a really cool strategy for dealing with them. So ghosts, we can't riposte. We can't riposte ghosts. So, how do we deal with them? We use Blizzard Feint. Blizzard Feint allows us to deflect something else and use the collateral damage to hit the ghosts. Now, what are we going to use? In this room, we have a bunch of critters. Spiders, in this case. So, we're just going to take one for a ride. What we're going to do is we're going to lure our friend Casper down this hallway. We are going to walk up on our pal, Mr. Spider here. And we're gonna kill our thing there. What's nice, this room has 5 spiders in it, so we get 5 attempts to kill the 4 ghosts. I think all we have left is that raid. This is a very consistent setup because those spiders always land there. And Blizzard Feint is massive. The range is massive, I think. I can't really see the spiders that well. I'm waiting for the sound effect. They always make this little squelching sound at the start when they do their ability. And we're full health. Because critters give us 100 health back per predation. So here we're going to have a living armor. You could use pretty much any riposte. Lightning's actually quite effective. I like fire against these guys because there's just a little bit more value in phase 1. And then in phase 2, it's like just as powerful as all the others. But I find it a little bit more effective for phase 1. So we'll use it. And look at that. As always, when fighting a living armor, I'm going to stand back so I can bait specific moves I want. And then I'm going to get in space for the deflect. There, I kind of walk forward a little early. Interesting. But generally, I want to get in its face for the deflect because being in its face makes it so that its stagger animation, he'll be wide open when the angle strikes him instead of recovering. Just because we'll be so close. That was 3 deflects. 3? Might have been 4 deflects to get past its armor. And then 1 there just took out 2.5 health bars. Very easy fight living armor, so long as we're allowed to do that, obviously. Certain arenas are better than others. Here we Blizzard Feint because we have, we're going to have Banshees. Banshees are weaker to ice than they are to fire. Frankly, the Banshees are not the best enemy for this run. But they aren't the worst either. The reason Banshees I don't like is because you have to have them actually attack you. A lot of times they just scream or grab like that. They become tedious to actually... They become tedious to actually be able to deflect because they just don't do things that you want a lot of the time. Fortunately, we can also use that guy. He's very slap happy right now, which is cool because I want him trying to slap me. Because if he's trying to slap me, he might continue to try and slap me when I switch to Inferno Feint. But he's also giving us opportunities to use him in his strikes for collateral frost on the Banshees. I would prefer to deflect the Banshees instead of him because deflecting the Banshees will get the deflection of the physical portion as well if I'm in melee. Which I'm not going to deflect the Banshee unless I'm in melee. But that physical portion is going to be actually really good damage for us simply because the... It's going to be really good damage simply because the Bloody Knuckles, as well as the fact that they are weak. Well, they're quite susceptible to bludgeoning damage, which is what our deflection provides. And physical damage. They're fairly vulnerable. As long as it's comparable, obviously. So we like that. Obviously now that I actually have the right buff on, this guy's going to spew poison everywhere instead of slap at me. But c'est la vie. Thankfully, he does go for us there. Midnight Helix. We can hear the roar. We know we have a dragon. I'm gonna rebuff with Inferno Feint. This is a, let's say, interesting way to fight the dragon. So, getting next to a dragon, its heart, I mean, specifically, you can deflect the little ticks of elemental damage that it does. This one obviously does frost damage. What's nice about this, we do have the awareness augment on, so we're taking less frost damage than otherwise. But what's nice about this dragon specifically is that I wanted to step back just because I didn't want to be staggered inside. Or I didn't, not staggered, but I didn't want to be stationary inside that execute. Anyway, what's nice about the Frost Dragon is we're not really afraid of getting frozen so much. It can be dangerous, but it's really only going to be dangerous if we remain frozen for very long, and we generally don't. Because it's not like sleep where we have to wait it out. We can toggle escape out of being frozen. So standing here becomes a pretty effective tactic. You gotta heal off, but that's okay. Unfortunately, when we knock him down, generally that's what we like, but here there's nothing we can do. The aura frost damage stops ticking when he's knocked down. But anyway, we don't use this strategy against the Thunder Wyvern because, well, we can't really get up to its harpoons flying, obviously. But we also can't really use it against the Fire Drake because the Fire Drake just catches us on fire, which does incredible damage in comparison to just taking the little ticks of extra damage from the Frostworm. So the Frostworms are actually really quick to kill because we can just generate a tick of damage whether it's attacking us directly or not. I was a little bit curious as to why I had chosen Boltstorm Feint instead of Blizzard. I don't know if that was a mistake or if I just couldn't remember. This run is a lot about knowing which elements you need to use, or if not the specific weakness, which one has the best effect. And by best effect, I mean the property of the riposte. Levin, for example, strikes vertically. That's a grab. Yeah. It strikes straight down. Let's see if we get a blood red crystal. But Levin strikes straight down, top to bottom, so it's useful against like Cyclopes and things like that because it'll hit their eyes a lot of the times. Certainly their heads. That also makes it very useful against things like Elder Ogres because you get to hit the head. Frost Riposte, obviously, we use it against ghosts. It has a huge, wide, massive collateral damage area. It freezes things quite consistently. Deals pretty good damage, obviously, to things that are weak to ice. And then fire is our like launching things at somebody. And it has a little bit more impact, I would say, than the other augments. Not augments, the other deflections, because the way it strikes just has like more like strike to it. Well, looks like we get another attempt at a blood red crystal. We are not succeeding in this fight very well. Okay, one down. We weren't fast enough to see that one. 2 blood red crystals in one room. That's not bad. Everyone loves getting a blood red crystal when they can. Very annoying material to obtain. You have to be grabbed by one of these guys, and then you have to kill them afterwards. They get increased defenses after they grab you. So it's quite frustrating. Here we'll switch to Inferno Feint, because we want the fire damage, but also the extra impact. The properties of Frost might have been better in a sense, but the damage on fire is just considerably better. Also, fire will get the knockdown there, whereas Frost can, but it's a little bit finicky. So, fighting these guys, the way we want to do it, if we stand on the left and right, which I would normally do to fight a Fire Drake with Frost Riposte, if we stand on the left and right, with Frost Riposte we can hit the heart consistently because it's just a huge AoE. Because the property of Inferno Feint is to send a grand angle, basically, towards your target. When you block the arm, because it swings at you, you end up hitting just his side. So what we're going to do is we're going to stand further back than I would generally ever stand against one of these guys, because I don't like that blocking bite attack that it's using. Instead, we're going to actually bait that by standing in front of its mouth. Now here, its health is low enough that when it stands up, it should breathe its poison breath at us. And it is. We can't do anything against that, so we're just going to run into here so that we can ensure that we avoid it. If we want, we could kill a couple leaf worms. If we walk closer to that edge, headed towards the Poison River area, there are leaf worms that'll spawn. We don't actually care, though. We would rather just kill this guy and move on. We're not low health, so like we're not struggling for it. Now, as before, if this guy decides to fly into the air and we don't get a knockdown, we are a little bit screwed. Just a little bit. Simply because there's nothing we can really do to knock it out of the air. In this case, we don't. Another big fear about him flying into the air and why I don't want it to in this room is that it sometimes will land on the catwalks up above, at which point I won't be able to stagger them when they take off again. And by that I mean if they fly back into the air after being on one of those catwalks, because I'm not going to be up there with them, I won't be able to get a deflection on their wing flap, and therefore I won't be able to knock them down immediately, which means I will just have to wait them out. Which, as mentioned before, not what we're looking for. We're going to have a couple bats that spawn right here. See? Fortunately, we're moving at a good pace. A day cycle is about 45-ish minutes in this game. I don't know precisely, because it doesn't actually matter to me. If we are too slow running through, what actually will happen sometimes is that the enemies will all respawn. In this case, this guy respawned. The dragon won't. The enemies that'll respawn on a day cycle are really just the small ones. But we did a number of practice attempts where... Oh my gosh, these gargoyles are just getting me. Struggling to get a perfect deflection off. There we go. But we did a number of practice attempts where we would get back to the Ward of Regret, and it would be a problem. Unfortunately, that cursed dragon spawned in as we were going through the door, so we missed it. We wouldn't have mind fighting it, but we just fought one, so I don't need to demonstrate it again. It's okay. I am a little bit bummed we missed it, though. So, Vault of Defiled Truth. As you see, we're buffed up. You'll also notice that I'm coming into these rooms with a lot lower stamina than I generally like for my runs. That's because we don't really use a whole lot of stamina during our fights, because we don't have to do anything. We don't have any abilities, I mean. Sprinting's going to consume a lot of our stamina, but we only need to buff like once every couple minutes, and it's not an expensive ability to use. So we're not overly worried. I can hear the wing flaps. That means we have the Cocktail's configuration. Unfortunately, that also means we have Death as the carrion beast that can spawn. The reason I say unfortunately is we actually cannot deal damage to Death. We do not have enough base strength to use double barbed nails and, like, deal damage. I'm pretty sure we actually deal 0 damage to Death with double barbed nails. Or not barbed nails, bloody knuckles, I mean. With double bloody knuckles, we don't even deal enough damage punching it. There's nothing that he does that we can deflect. Cockatrice is weak to lightning, but so are these guys. What's nice about using this, and when I say this, I mean the Boltstorm Feint, is that when we deflect the Ranger Pawns, the lightning bolts will strike down on top of where the Ranger Pawns are. So if we deflect a Ranger Pawn, regardless of where we are in the room, we will hit them. Assuming we get a perfect deflection, which is tricky when, you know, you can't see them actually attacking you. You just see arrows suddenly appearing. You just kind of have to guess. But we'll kill them. We'll go up and kill them in a bit. I don't actually want death to kill my cockatrice. That is actually something that I really don't like when death kills things for me. Obviously, sometimes when you're too weak, death killing things for you is kind of nice because you can use death to your advantage in that regard. But in a run, I don't like it when death kills things for me because I'm trying to kill things myself. So hopefully death doesn't scythe our bird friend here. But if it does, you know, we've already dealt most of its health. Here I'm just using the shield out of, like, I'm just guessing. I'm just blindly guessing and hoping to get lucky on a riposte. That's all that's happening. I have not been. And part of that's because I can't see the animations for them. There we go. Okay, Cock just missed. That was actually a pretty nice block too. I don't like it when that happens, where it does that attack and it just moves around me. Because I feel like if I wasn't perfect blocking, it probably would have struck me, right? You know? It's just how the game feels sometimes. There are actually 3 ranger pawns. We've only killed 1, so we do have 2 left. But we will, like I said, after we could deal with this cockatrice, we'll move up there. After we deal with the cockatrice, we will move up there and deal with the pawns. Unfortunately, it's just taken a while. This pause is likely because I'm talking to chat. We do stream these runs live over at twitch.tv/localticogrohe. It's a lot of fun. You guys should come check us out sometime. Hang out in the Dragon's Dogma 2 waiting room. Alright, our buff is wore out, so we do need to run away. Unfortunately, he's going to scythe our cockatrice right there, which is disappointing. For some reason, we've decided to take this route. I don't know why I pulled that boulder. I don't know what purpose that was to serve. Back to Boltstorm Feint. That's because it's the only consistent move against the Ranger Pawns. It also does great damage. It's a one-shot, so even if it wasn't consistent, it is the one-shot. Yeah, I saw that coming. I guess I didn't see that there were 2 Rangers standing there. When I did that live. But I did notice at that time. Kind of funny. There we go. But yeah, there we had both Ranger Pawns standing on top of each other. One of them was casting its Gamble or Dire Arrow, whatever it's casting. And the other one was just standing in front of it, walking into the wall. So I just only saw that one, I guess. Blizzard Feint, because of the massive AoE. That way we can deflect these guys. Bloody Knuckles, because we're going to have Goblin Shamans. Again, we don't really do very good damage to Goblin Shamans with Deflect, and then it's very weird to do it, because the Goblins eventually will just roll away from us every chance they can. I want to kill as many as possible before they start getting their spell screens off. The spell screen gives them defenses that are notably better, and it just takes even more time for us to kill them. I don't know if I thought I could kill him before that trigger cast went off and I was planning on moving out of it, or if I thought I was out of it, or if I just plain didn't see it, but that was kind of weird to watch back. Frankly, I'm just like, why am I standing there? I don't know. Okay, so if you've seen my other runs, you'll know the strategy I'm going to use to get up this ladder. We are going to wait until he's casting Ingle. Frigger and Levin both cast on top of your person. Ingle is a projectile that he shoots from himself. The thing about this guy casting Ingle is that he cannot cast it at a downward angle. So the moment we see he is casting Ingle, we want to climb this ladder. We were trying to climb the ladder there when we picked up those items. Fortunately, it doesn't really matter, because not only do we have the entire cast time of Ingle to get up the ladder, we have the entire cast time of the next spell. Maybe not the entire time. We have all but the very last, like, half second of the next cast time to get up the ladder. So here we're going to have Eliminators. There will be 2 of them. Eliminators, not that difficult. We just want them to charge at us so we can deflect them and knock them back. We do really good damage to them. We can also bait the hammer. We want to hit the hammer swinging down, though, not the sidestepping hammer. So it's either the charge or the hammer. The reason we want the downward swinging hammer is because it staggers them a little bit better. So long as you have the stagger resistance in your shield to stay upright during it. When you have a weaker shield, it's very often that you attempt to perfect block an Eliminator and he just knocks you down. Or maybe not knocks you down, but knocks you backwards. And then the downward hammer swing, specifically, I bring that one up because if you get a perfect deflection off on that, but you don't have the stance, I guess, to stand upright afterwards, what ends up happening is you get knocked back, and then you get knocked down by the second swing. It's a full-on combo, right? We don't want that. And we managed to evade death. Death got bored and left. We're only about 800, 700 health away from max. Gutter of Misery. Here I can hear the undead spawning, so we know we have the undead configuration. The first one's up here. We'll use fire on them. It's obviously going to be just the most effective tool at our disposal. The rest of the configuration is not my favorite. I would have preferred Saurian, because down below we're going to have Corrupted Pawns. Corrupted Pawns are specifically bad on a Predation run because they do not give you any healing. Killing Corrupted Pawns does not provide us with 100 health that the Predation Augment tends to provide. So, we have to play it safe. There's also a lot of Corrupted Pawns in the next area, and it's likely that I take some damage. Not a whole lot, because we are pretty good at killing them as a Mystic Knight, but the casters are what gives us a little bit of trouble. Damn. I was hoping that he would go a little bit past this one and I could hit both of them with that Ingle, but I say Ingle because that's how the Riposte cast. If you don't know how the Ripostes work, they cast a spell. Fire casts Ingle, Lightning casts Levin, and Frost casts Frazzle, but specifically the ending part of Frazzle. If you use Frazzle, it leaves you channel like a frost aura around you, and at the end of it, you explode it outwards. It's just that exploding outwards. As you use tier 2 version of the Riposte, or the deflection spells, it goes from being a regular Ingle, Levin, or Frazzle to a high Ingle, Levin, or Frazzle, and then eventually a Grand. For Ingle, the difference is 1 fireball versus 3 fireballs versus 5 fireballs. So having Inferno Feint on means when we deflect something, we send 5 fireballs out. That means we have opportunities when things die. Small things die, rather, I should specify. Their hitboxes disappear. Large things, the hitbox remains for a little bit. But when small things die, the hitbox disappears immediately. So we can deflect 1 undead. If it dies in like 2 of the 5 fireballs from Ingle, the other 3 might hit another target. So we can get a little bit of collateral damage with Ingle as well. Levin we can get collateral damage on, but they have to be standing on top of each other. It's not ideal for AoE. Now, it is lightning, so things that are weak to lightning often will chain that lightning damage to each other. But it is not consistent, nor why you're using Levin in the first place. We just got 1 more. Hopefully he's slap happy. And as I say it, I'm getting slapped. Perfect. That should be it. Now, as I said before, Corrupted Pawns. We may elect to use Frost here. Nope, we still go with Lightning. The reason I was saying we may elect for Frost is because of the collateral. I don't remember how much damage it does. We did this run a few weeks ago. It's probably been almost a month, actually, from recording this to sitting down and doing the voiceover. Partially because I had a backlog of voiceover I needed to finish and publish. And then partially I just haven't had time. Elizabeth and I are in the process of moving. And things have been absolutely crazy. I have had no good free time where I can sit down and do voiceover for the 2 hours that I need to for any individual setting. Because this video is about 2 hours long, I can't do voiceover for less than 2 hours if I'm going to succeed, right? These guys gave us a pretty good pattern. We were able to kill most of them pretty quickly. That caster casting Combustion is the most dangerous spell that these guys can use on us. It does absolutely insane damage. And it's very quick. Obviously the cast time isn't, but the moment you see the indicator, it like comes up like half a second later. It is so fast. It's very dangerous. That's exactly what we wanted him to do, just shoot at us with his regular projectile. Unfortunately we're silenced, so we don't want to move too far forward and have our buff wear out. So we'll see. Okay, it looks like we're allowing it to come out. I'm a little bit surprised, but that's okay. I mean, we currently have the buff, so we're fine. The only concern would be if it goes away. I didn't even see that guy, so I guess I'm happy I did. I'm gonna back away and we're gonna rebuff before we get silenced by this guy. Because if he silences me and I have the buff active, I don't really care. But if he silences me and I don't have a buff active, we're gonna have a hard time doing something to him. Because our punches are pretty bad. We really just want to use the punches on the Goblin Shaman. I should not be this close to this guy. I should be... yeah, I should be backing off, or I should be sprinting to be away from him, because Combustion, if you're just walking like I was, it's actually hard to get out of the Combustion attack. It's just so quick. Yeah, see there I was hit by it. And I knew what was happening. I don't know why I was so close. He keeps using Combustion on me. I'm not a big fan. Why am I staying? Am I trying to deflect? You can perfect deflect Combustion. It's just very weird time. Especially these guys' Combustion. These guys cast Combustion quickly. An example of a not as quick Combustion would be, for example, Witches. When Witches cast Combustion, it's not as quick. You can block it. Even Daemon's Combustion is not as quick. Although, obviously, Damon's cast time for Commission is fast, but the speed at which the Commission comes out once it's cast is slower. That's what I'm talking about. I don't really care how long the cast time is. It's about how long after they've cast it that it takes for the Commission to strike. Now here we're going to wait till our silence goes away, because I will want to rebuff in the next room, because for whatever reason sometimes if you haven't rebuffed, even if you have the correct element, when you get a perfect deflection, it won't deal any damage if the buff was carried from one room to the next. I don't really know why. It's actually super duper weird, but yeah. I am surprised I have my characters standing where they are. That might sound like a really weird comment to make while we're just waiting. The reason I was surprised, and it's a little bit better now, the reason I was surprised is because we had the debuff indicator on top of that little reddish portion where it's cracked earth. And I'm red-green colorblind, and I actually found it very hard watching this video back, like, to tell whether the buff was there. But I moved a little bit there, and it made it easier. It was still not as easy as I would have liked. But yeah, I just kind of found that a little bit interesting that I was willing to give myself that disadvantage. Here we're going to buff with Boltstorm. The reason we're going to do that is because we can deflect the tentacles, their casts, as well as their little swipes and their spits. And every time we kill a tentacle, we get 100 health. Okay, that guy missed. What a goof. But yeah, we're gonna do this just for the 100 health. We don't need to get maxed up before we do our next trick, for lack of a better word. The reason I say we don't need to have max health is because the next phase, the Gazer is going to... For the next phase, Gazer's going to summon 4 tentacles anyway to make a cannon. So long as I'm close to max health, which we're getting there, but so long as I'm close to max health, we can use these 4 tentacles to heal as well. That one was a little bit awkward. The reason that one was awkward was because that crate destroyed the first ice spike. So I was timing my block to that ice spike and it just kind of didn't work out. So I actually don't want to use this tentacle to knock him down because I don't really do a whole lot of damage. I mean, we can use it and then climb on the eye and then punch it, but it's just not very good. The problem is we don't really have any recourse against Gazer itself in terms of actually... Let's say we get the knockdown with the eye, we don't really have a whole lot we can do. And then the tentacle, likely if I hop down, the tentacle will likely go away. So I'm very unlikely to actually hit the eye. What's really weird is if you run down there, I've never had more than like 5 of this big tentacle spawn. But if you don't go down, like it'll just keep spawning on you. It's like really goofy. That was probably close to like 10. Now I'm climbing back up higher because the next thing I want to do is jump onto the face. I don't want to do it during Angle. I would prefer to do it during Levin. Or it's actually not Levin that he's using. He's using something else. But you can also just go after he casts a spell. The reason you don't want Ingle is because if you climb up here, Ingle can knock you off pretty effectively. As earlier we were talking about our very, very minimal Bloody Knuckle damage. This is double Bloody Knuckles and we're not doing damage. Or not good damage. When you are not doing absolutely insane shredding damage on its face, you can only get 4 health bars missing. 4 health bars of damage is what you'll deal. When you get to 4 health bars missing, it will knock you off. Well, it might not knock you off, but it will chomp down, and it'll go to the next phase where it starts summoning its cannon. So my goal here is just to get 4 health bars sheared off before I run out of stamina. If I get 4 health bars off before I run out of stamina, we're good to go. Unfortunately, we don't deal very good damage, so it is a near thing. I believe we can get it here because we only have... run into about a quarter of my stamina, right? And we only have 1 health bar to go. But we weren't 100% full, so we'll probably run out of stamina, like, right as I'm running out of... or right as I'm getting into the transition phase. So... that's unfortunate, but we should be okay. It looks like I'm going to get it in the next, like, 3 punches. 1, 2, 3. There we go. And I could just let go and start recovering our stamina. Next, he's going to summon those 4 tentacles to make the cannon. So we'll top off our health shortly. But we do have... the next problem is that we're not going to deal very good damage. And we don't have very much stamina either. Fortunately, we don't need any to kill these tentacles, but... that's okay. As I was saying earlier about only dealing 4 health bars worth of damage to get to this phase, if you are dealing good damage and your damage is coming out quicker, you can push past 4 pretty easily. It just has to do with the fact that if you're doing like slower damage, past it's not that impressive. Now, the amount of damage that the cannon does is I don't know the equation on how it works, but it is a function of how much damage you are dealing. And then it like magnifies it to some extent. So obviously we don't deal very good damage there because we don't deal good damage at all, whereas if we had a weapon and we were hitting it, we'd be doing a bit more. Here, I would say generally the next thing it'll do is the big tentacle. I don't know why that's the pattern, just this. Now we're gonna climb onto the eye and we can punch. We have 3 health bars to go through, we have full stamina. Our first climb onto the eye would tell us that we know we have enough stamina to kill it so long as we get back into position on the eye quickly, which can sometimes be a chore. Fortunately, we don't get debilitated there, but it's okay. We should still have plenty of stamina to finish this. That pattern, by the way, the jump on its eye, deal 4 health bars, do the cannon, use the cannon to slap him up into another giant tentacle, knock him down so that we can climb onto the eye. Very consistent if you're not dealing crazy damage. What makes it inconsistent is dealing a lot more damage than what we're dealing. There's actually a good amount of leeway from our damage to higher amounts of damage that will follow this precise pattern. But like if you don't absolutely shred this guy and you're like trying to figure out a good script to fight this guy in, I guess, this is a pretty consistent one. With that, Gazer is dead. Ending the fight with full stamina. Or sorry, not full stamina, full health. We have 4920. Okay, I thought we had 4820. Maximum health. Guess not. 4920 it is. And that's the first third of our run. And it's coming in a bit more than half of the video. So the first third is pretty long. It's not the longest segment, but it's pretty long. Here, we just saw those ghosts down there, so we're gonna put on the ring for Frost Riposte. Or Blizzard Feint, rather. And we're going to use the Strigoi to deflect to get our collateral. We have to be a little bit selective in when we choose to get deflections, however, because the Strigoi are fairly weak to frost, and if I deflect them too many times and don't get collateral hits on ghosts, we can run out of things basically things to deflect to kill the ghosts with. We don't want that to happen, obviously. So we you know, we will try to make our deflections count. Unfortunately, that ghost dashed like right when I was going for the deflection. That is a 3rd blood red crystal this run, and I guess we hadn't had that before because we just got a quest completion. Very interesting. I am not a fan of aggroing both of these Strigoi while the ghosts are still active. If I had my choice, I wouldn't have, but obviously. It looks like we've gotten all the ghosts dead. I did not see us kill the first ones, but we must have gotten it during the same like strike as the first Strigoi or something. I don't know. But I'm not seeing the other 2 ghosts, so maybe. Very nice. Corrupted Pawns, as before, they do not provide us health back, but at this time we're full health. He missed. I'm trying to just get a collateral hit on this guy. There we go. The Pilgrim's Gauntlet. I can see a Saurian in front of me, so I know we have what I generally would call the good configuration. I don't know that I would today. The reason I say that is because this room has double what are they called? Double golems as the final portion of the fight in this room. And it isn't the best circumstance for us. I brought the first Pyre Saurian over to this Banshee to be collateral procs on, if you were wondering why I walked over here before I had killed the Saurian. Damn. There we go. The reason I was saying that I would prefer not to have this configuration is actually twofold. I already mentioned the fact that we have double golems, which is obviously not going to be good for us because we don't do good damage. We can't deflect them at all. We don't do, well, that's not true. We can deflect them, but we don't do damage if we deflect them. And we don't do very good damage punching things, so it's just a not very entertaining fight, I would say. But the other factor is the other one has... The other configuration is kind of nice in terms of what the final room has for us, because it is a Fire Drake accompanied by ghosts, and of course, both of those make use of the Frost Riposte, or Blizzard Feint, rather, I should say. And so we can actually kind of do some pretty nice stuff in terms of dealing damage the way we want. Fire Drake's kind of usually frustrating, but it's actually kind of a fun fight as a Mystic Knight, in my opinion. I think the biggest problem it has as a Mystic Knight is if you mess up like any of your deflections, it does do incredible damage. But we do have Bastion Augment on, which is greatly decreases damage from physical attacks. We also have Awareness, which greatly decreases damage from magic attacks. Not that we need both necessarily, but for the Fire Drake, I mean. But, you know, we do have them. We are full health here, so we don't really need to worry about these spiders. But each of these spiders would give us 100 health back if we needed it. We switched to thunder damage, lightning damage, because when we use lightning damage, the spiders will chain that damage to each other. So we can kill all, it's like 6 or 7. We can kill all 6 or 7 spiders there with just 2 ripostes. It's very effective. As I said, we have 2 golems, but we also have 4 sirens. Sirens are actually weak to dark damage, so that would be the better damage type to use if we were trying to kill these guys. But realistically, they are not overly strong enemies. So we can do pretty good work with just our Boltstorm Feint, as witnessed. And that was a 2-for-1 because they were on top of each other. As I said before, you can get collateral hits with Boltstorm. We just have to have them like standing on top of each other to get the deflection to hit both of them. Or the lightning bolts, rather, to hit both of them. I don't know if you can deflect the explosions on that laser. I have never made an attempt to do so. It would be kind of cool. But realistically, it wouldn't matter. Lightning's not going to do any damage. Fire's not going to do any damage for that matter. There's really no damage we can do with the deflection. So we just kind of ignore it. That intense damage. Ooh, baby. The sarcasm. Finally, it did something that we can deflect. Alright. Now we're going to put double Bloody Knuckles on. I'm not going to rebuff our Riposte, just because it literally serves zero purpose. We can't deal damage with it anyway. Generally, my pattern for killing these guys is going to be break the back into the foot. Here we can see that the foot's going to freeze him, which I generally don't want. I usually want like my 3rd medallion to freeze him. Or the last medallion really is opportune. But I generally don't want the foot to be the one that does it, because it just limits the medallions that are available. is upset. Must have said something. I don't mind that he freezes here because all of his medallions are available to us. He's not posed in any way that's going to make it even difficult for us to hit his medallions. So we can just take care of it. There we go. Now, we're at 4452. We know our max is 4920. So we're about 500 health shy. There are 4 spiders right here. So now we're about, what is that, 70-ish health shy. We could go the other way, down the other alcove, and there's, I don't know how many bats that spawn, maybe like 7 or so. We could do that. But we're literally missing less than 100 health. So it doesn't really make a huge difference as to whether we're full health or at 4852. Not when we have 4852 max health. It's quite a good amount. So we'll just proceed. Switching to Inferno, because we're going to have Banshee. 2 of them, actually. Not Banshees. Why did I say Banshees? We're going to have Liches. We had the Ghost configuration. So when we have the Ghost configuration, we have 2 Liches up here with an Eliminator, as you can see. Down below, we'll have Eliminators with more Ghosts. If I'm lucky, sometimes we can stagger him off of the cliff. It just kind of speeds it up just a moment faster. You see how little damage we do for swinging on that sideways one? That's why we like the vertical swing or the charge. Yeah, you see how much damage the vertical swing one does? It just has to do with the angle at which we can get to him and hit him. It doesn't have to do with like the angle of the hammer. It has to do with the angle we can get our body into him. That's an Ingle. That's the best spell this guy can cast to us. We can deflect it twice. We failed the second deflect. Ingle, when it hits you, has like a follow-up tick of fire damage that goes off, and when you deflect that, it will deflect it back to the person who casted the Ingle in the first place. So does Frigger, only it's ice damage. So we can get 2 ripostes off of a single cast of Ingle. We will use that to great effect against Damon. When Damon casts Ingle in phase 2, we can deflect it twice. It's our favorite ability for him to use. It is by far the best ability for him to use. The one in the back there is casting Bolide. Actually, they're both casting Bolide now. You can iframe Bolide. You probably can deflect Bolide. Will I? No. We'll just evade it. Bolide's dangerous. It does a lot of damage. It doesn't have an indicator. Not here, at least. So it's very hard to time. As we demonstrated before, ice isn't bad, but I don't want to do both ice at the same time. One at a time is okay. But both of them together would be tricky because we could time the first one. Timing the second one would be very tricky if it's on top of it. Not bad. Another point that can be painful there, because we can have a situation where they choose not to cast things that we like they'll spam combustions or things like that. The reason we don't like combustions is because they're just very frustrating. Now, next we're going to have ghosts. We can't actually deflect ghosts, so instead we Blizzard Feint, and we pull, in this case, a leaf worm. The next room has a handful of leaf worms. If we're fortunate, we'll pull one at a time, which it looks like we managed to do. We have 2 aggroed, but one's going to be jumping into the corner inside the room. The reason I only want to pull one at a time is 1, I don't have to worry about 2 leaf worms jumping at me. But 2, it gives me more attempts, because if I deflect a leaf worm and get collateral damage on it, to hit the next leaf worm, I mean, if I kill 2 leaf worms with 1 riposte, then I've basically gotten rid of tools in my arsenal. This run's actually pretty cool because we have to come up with kind of creative solutions, I would say, to how we're going to deal damage to certain... Oh my gosh. To certain enemies. It dodged me. Oh. No. We accidentally got rid of the leaf worm. There are more. If we go by the window, one will jump from that. There's also a couple behind that chest. So we have a good number of leaf worms left, but we are running out of opportunities, obviously. Okay, 1 ghost remains. But yeah, these creative solutions were really fun to puzzle out, frankly. I really like the Ward of Regret when we were doing our practice runs. Obviously, there's 2 configurations for each room. So when we were doing the Ward of Regret ghost one, when we had figured that one out, I was really hoping that the run we succeeded on and made our video of would have the Ward of Regret in it, because I think it's such a fun way to deal with those ghosts. Unfortunately, these strategies don't really play nice with no-hit run ideas, so we can't use them for a no-hit run, but please do not fall into that hole. Ooh. Hell yeah. But yeah, we can't use them for a no-hit run, but they still... Man, they're still super duper cool. Now there are a lot of leaf worms in here. If we perfectly go between these 2 haystacks, like really just bisect it, we don't have to have them spawn. Obviously, if we were fighting a bunch of ghosts, we could have them spawn. We will have 2 here, which is why you'll see me move forward here, because I do want to get deflects off with the ghosts in the area so that I can get the collateral damage off. We got 1. And we got 2. Now, ice isn't the best damage type against these eliminators. However, as you can see, it's doing wonderful things for collateral damage. So I didn't really mind having it. But now that most everything else is dead, we might as well switch to lightning. The damage is just notably better. Earlier we used fire. The reason we were using fire earlier is because I didn't want to have... If I could get a deflection off on the liches, I wanted to be able to deal damage to them. Fire deals considerably more damage to them than lightning does. But now that these guys are dealt with, that's the way to go. We're not going to switch Ring to Inferno Feint. We're going to just stick with Flame Riposte because we don't need Inferno Feint to deal the damage we need. These guys are not overly strong. Yeah, there we go. Also, that one was already halfway defeated, but yeah, we don't need 5 fireballs to kill any of them. And we're ending Fortress of Remembrance with full health. So far, we've had a pretty smooth run. I don't think we've had red health yet. As I jinx it, obviously, with that statement. But this has been a pretty good run. Alright, we have the Succubus configuration. As I said before, killing these medallions does not get us... it does not get us... it does work with Predation. So we'll get 100 health back here. We're full, so it's not going to be noticeable. But every one of these will give us full health for some reason, the medallions. They're all like separate entities. But for whatever reason, they do count. There are 13 Succubi and 1 Strigoi. So generally, I will count out loud while I'm doing the run. I don't remember doing that on this run. I've been really lazy about counting it recently. Just because it's extremely crucial that I count it on a no-hit run, because if I walk out thinking that I've killed 13 and I've killed 12 and one just blindsides me, run's dead, right? On a non-no-hit run, the likelihood I die to the Succubi is pretty minimal, so I won't always count. But generally, that's what I'll do. I know there's 13 in this room, and I'll just count them out as we kill them. It makes it much easier. I don't know what my resistances are on this run. We might have curse resistance, we might not. We apparently have the strength down debilitation resistance because we did not have our strength sapped when we were grabbed by the previous siren. Or this one, for that matter. I believe that's only 2 Succubi. That was a big whiff. That's because we're on like this little ramp, though. It's swinging down at me, and I'm on a downslope, so it just doesn't know how to deal with that. You cannot block or iframe or anything for that grab. I believe that's 5. 6, I suppose, I should say. So we're about halfway done. The Harpies will not all come to you. I said there are 13. They won't all come to you at the same time. They will only have like 3 or 4 active at any given time. I don't know why. It's just how the spawning system works for this room. So if you want to kill all 13 quickly, you have to kill them quickly. You can't just like wait for them all to pile up and do like a big AoE. They have to like kind of die for you to get the value. We just got 2 more, so that's I think 8. 9. Now this configuration can have Death as the carrion beast. I don't want Death to spawn, obviously. I can't deal damage to him. But this is also a very bad location for fighting Death. And the reason it's a bad location for fighting Death is because we don't have really good spaces to evade him from. I think that's like 10. And there's Death. We switched to Frost specifically for the Strigoi. We don't want the Strigoi to stay active for very long. Strigoi does not count towards our 13. I think I was thinking I need to swap my ring, but I don't. The Boltstorm Feint is on the same ring as Blizzard Feint. The Inferno Feint's solo. If you are trying to get these rings, by the way, they are actually considered weapon abilities, not class abilities. The reason I make that distinction is because the hello, Death. The way the that was a little bit startling. The way the Bitterblack gear rings operate is gear 1 provides obviously the stat rings, but also the weapon ability rings. So that's going to be like your 100 Kisses, your shield buffs in this case, also your like elemental buffs for your stabs. Subsequently, if I was a blue vocation, I could have gotten the elemental buff for the shield. Not these buffs, but I mean the ones that buff our weapons from the shield. Yeah, dude. Okay. This is a tricky hit. You do need to use the heavy attacks that you kick outwards. So it is tricky to land that kick, but once you get the position once, you're pretty much good to go. That should have been like Harpy number 12, maybe? 11 at the earliest. My point is, I think we have one more, if not two. I'm standing there so that he starts using the lantern ability, so it gives me the most amount of time. There we go. Nice. What an annoying fight. I generally will go for that one next, the medallion next to death. I'm a little bit surprised I didn't go into the tunnel to hit it, though. To hit the one in the tunnel, I mean, instead. Because it was a little bit awkward. One more. Nice. We did catch fire. That's okay. Easy. Now we still can't deal damage to death, so we're just gonna dip. But not bad. So the Forsaken Cathedral, 2 configurations. Ice is an okay damage source for both. One's going to have Pyrosaurian, which obviously Ice is the far and away better damage source to use. The other is going to have Evil Eyeball, or Vile Eyes, rather. Both of them will have Goblin Shamans, but Vile Eyes. I am ignoring the Vile Eyes because nobody casted an ability that's really particularly good for me to deflect. And I want to kill these guys first. Ingle obviously is a pretty good ability to deflect. We get 2 deflections if we choose to be effective. And it's also quick, so we can land the deflection before the eye closes. If we were farther away, we might not have actually gotten the deflection to hit him before he goes back to being invulnerable. The Vile Eye at the end there. Goodness. missing. This guy falling over is really good for us because it means he doesn't stand back up very quickly. We can actually just punch him out. Because we had the Vile Eye configuration, we should have the Gold and Silver Knight down here. Or sorry, not the Gold and Silver Knight. That's in pre-Bitterblack, or pre-Damon. We should have the Silver Knight with the Goblin Shamans, though. The Silver Knight is weak to fire damage, if I remember correctly, whereas the Gold Knight's weak to frost. I believe. I'm pretty sure that's correct. I always actually get those two confused. So it's possible I have that backwards. We'll see what I do, though. We'll see if I get a deflection off and it does no damage and I switch. I'm probably not going to worry too much about him until I have the Goblin Shamans dead, though. The Goblin Shamans, that's 4 casters remaining between the Silver Knight and the 3 Goblin Shamans that are alive. I can kill the Goblin Shamans somewhat reasonably because they don't heal. So I can just bounce between Goblin Shamans and deal damage whenever I can. Okay, I'm a little bit surprised that hit me because we were like completely to the side. But you know what? That's the experience of having Antler Toss used on you as a player. Our Antler Toss hitbox is not nearly as good as his, that's for sure. Not that it's bad, but not as good as his for sure. Nice, we only have one more Goblin Shaman. Get out of here. He does not have spell screen right now. Although he's still very resistant for no spell screen. It's kind of interesting. Okay, and here we switch to Inferno Feint. Okay, that's good. Oh, I forgot. I was explaining the different rings. Ah. I knew I was saying something and then I forgot while I was speaking because the death caught me so off guard. And I was like scrambling, not only in game, but in my brain. But anyway, so Gear 1 items will provide you weapon abilities. These Shield Riposte abilities are considered weapon abilities. They aren't considered Mystic Knight class abilities. Gear 2s provide class ability rings. Those are things like Fractured Art, or not Fractured Art, well, it would be Fractured Art, but Fractured Art doesn't have a ring. Those are things like Downpour Volley, Splitter, Dire Arrow, I want to say, is on a 2. For Mystic Knight, the abilities Sopor, Fur, and Stone Forest are the Gear 2 rings. And then Gear 3 has both the Gear 1 rings, the Gear 2 rings, and like a few others, like some of the utility rings. There I let him silence me because they're not going to stop trying to silence me until they succeed. This guy's casting Commission. I don't want any part of that. I don't like that I'm standing so close, knowing he's casting Commission, because exactly that happened. We were just like full health, I'm pretty sure, and now we're missing 1,000 health, just instantly. Like there's just no reason for me to be that close. Not when I can just back off when he's casting it and completely negate. I'm walking back into it for some reason. At least I decided to sprint away instead of just standing there. Yeah, like look at how much health we lost for taking those commissions, whatever. But anyway, so in order to get these rings effectively, like quickly, I mean, when we were trying to farm them out, what we did, instead of trying to farm Gear 3s, which you can get by in my opinion, the best way to get gear 3s. I'm trying to like perfect block them because I know the timing. The problem is the timing for these guys is way faster than the actual timing for like anybody else who casts Combustion. So yeah, it's just a big struggle actually landing the perfect deflection off because they just go too quick. I really just need them to try and shoot me with their magic bolts. It's the only good ability for us. That Frigger's not going to be bad if we decided to go for it. We didn't. But it wouldn't have been terrible. That being said, the Shaman is what's casting it. But we might be able to get some collateral damage off. Doesn't look like we do. Oh well. But yeah, so you can farm gear 3s, back to the point at hand, or the conversation. You can farm gear 3s by being a Strider and using Master Thief, and they can drop gear 3s. You just go to the... You just go to the Forgotten Hall, which will be in the next video, but you go to the Forgotten Hall, and the 2 Prisoner Gore Cyclops there, if you use Master Thief on them, you can use their not in combat, so you can just steal from them. And if you get a gear 3, just save and reload, either by God's Veining or whatever. And then if you didn't get a gear 3, you just don't save and you just reload. And you can just keep doing that over and over again until you have like an inventory full of gear 3s. The problem with that method is that gear 3 has so many different things on the drop table that it becomes exceptionally difficult to actually attain the particular ring you're looking for, unless you're just particularly lucky. So instead, what we farmed, since we could farm gear 1s for the rings that we wanted, I mean, what we did instead was we killed leapworms. Leapworms have a decent chance of dropping a gear 1, but ultimately there's just a million leapworms in Bitterblack Isle. So what we did is whenever we had a leapworm pack, we would just save before we killed them all, and then we'd keep fighting them until we got a gear drop, and then we'd proceed. And so we ended up farming out, like, per run of Bitterblack Isle, you can get like 10, 11 gear 1s, and then we purified those. Gear 2s are going to be the hardest ones to farm. I don't actually know who drops gear 2 consistently, if I'm being perfectly honest. I would have to look it up. I do recall that they're less consistent than gear 1s or gear 3s though. So if you really need an ability ring, gear 3 probably is the easier one to farm just because of how quickly you can get them. But yeah, gear 1s are the way to go for the rings that we got, which are the important rings for Mystic Knight. I don't need the skill rings. Sopor being faster is cool, but like there are very few enemies that I use Sopor on, and the enemies that I do use Sopor on are very susceptible to it, so I don't actually need it better. What it would increase is the radius, and I think that the tick speed are the two things that happen when you increase the level of the spell of Sopor. So it would be like a little bit better, but ultimately I don't think it's good enough to merit me going for something here. Here we saw Ingle was coming out, so we just went past the dragon. But we're gonna do it the same method we did before. It should one-shot. Look at how low our health is. This is the lowest health we've had the entire run, and it's entirely because we baited out Combustion like 3 times to our detriment every time. That's why I was saying earlier when we were in the Gutter of Misery fighting the Corrupted Pawns, that's why I was saying I was a little bit nervous with how close we were standing, because that meant we were in range of the Combustion, and there's just no reason for us to be there. It's just so overwhelmingly dangerous in comparison to any other thing that could hit us in that area. And that's with the awareness augment, by the way. And we have pretty good magic defense. Not impressive. Not like crazy good. We didn't level as sorcerer or anything, or mage, but it's not terrible. Like, we have decent stuff equipped. I mean, we have 2 different Bitterblack 3 things. Okay, so here, this is where we do our damage. He's casting Fervor. Fervor, you can perfect deflect multiple times. The cadence, the timing for it's really awkward. The way I would recommend doing it, unless you're particularly good, is perfect block the first one, hold block until the second one hits, and then perfect block the third one, hold block for the fourth one, perfect block the fifth one, and then I think it ticks 6 times, so then just block the 6th one. If you can perfect block all of them, it is tricky though, or at least I find it to be the case. But that's where we deal our damage for the most part, because we can get so many ticks off in one exchange. The problem is, because we are getting blocks off, but not perfect blocks, we do lose a good amount of stamina for doing it. So you can't necessarily just stand in every fervor and hope for the best in terms of that, because eventually you will run out of stamina. If you don't have high enough stamina, it might become more of a gamble than you're hoping for. We were too close there. That's why we got... that's why we missed that. Nap time. Very clearly, we do not have resistance to sleep. Hopefully he doesn't hit us with anything too crazy. Like Fur would be pretty bad. Probably. Oh, he doesn't hit us at all. Very nice. This is going to be a different debilitation cloud. Probably Petrification, if I was going to guess. Or Petrifaction, I think is the actual word they use in this game. Another debilitation cloud. So if he's on the ground casting a black spell, we know it's a debilitation. If he's in the air casting a black spell, it's Execute. If he's in the air, if he's on the ground casting a gold spell, or yellow or whatever, a holy looking spell, we know it's Fervor, this one right here. If he flies into the air and casts anything, it's going to be either... Yeah, see there we were able to get some straight back to back. I might still be on the edge of it. Okay, yeah. That is a resurrection. But yeah, if he's in the air casting anything, it can be a red spell, it can be black, it could be white or yellow, whatever color holy is. I guess it's like gold-ish. Regardless of what color he is, if he flies in the air to cast it, it's going to be Execute. Now, this is Bolide, that's not good for me. The reason why I say it's not good for me is Bolide's like crazy dangerous. I do not like it. That could have been Furor. The dragon can cast Furor. He only does it when he stops and like stands still and roars. But yeah, the only other spell that he can cast while floating into the air is the one where he does like the death bolts of light, like the homing death bolts, whatever that's called. That wing flap was pretty crucial, really easy to deflect. He falls down, we get to punch the sky. Double Bloody Knuckles, we're still doing minuscule damage. Obviously not what I would prefer, but it's what we have. We'll just keep punching him. We do get to shave off of like a couple health bars here, but you know, we leveled, like I said before, we leveled 190 levels of Mystic Knight. We don't have really good stat line anywhere other than health, frankly. But we have a big shield, so. Okay, we got like 2.5 health bars out, I want to say. Or did we actually? We might have only gotten like a health bar and like a half. I don't remember where we were at before. I think it was missing like 2.5 health bars, and now it's missing 4, so I think we only lost like a health bar and a half. Not our best damage, like I said before, but that's okay. we're at the part of the run where... Is he dropping down to the ground? Looks like it. Yeah, so this is for... It looked like he was in the air at the beginning, and mostly because he absolutely 100% was in the air at the beginning. That was a pretty good run. We got like 4 out of 6 or something like that. But yeah, he was in the air at the beginning of that. That's sometimes happens. Look at how much damage we did that run. I didn't even notice. He went from having 4 health bars missing to 6. This could be Furor, but it's probably not. That also, I want to say, possesses my pawns if I had them. I don't. Obviously, we do great damage with our deflect. Or maybe not great. Well, we do great damage with our deflect. We did kill the dragon, a single deflect, and it gets... When the bishop is inside the dragon, it gets a lot more... I don't know if it gets more health or more defense, one of the two. Or more defenses in general. I make it plural because it's physical and magic. But, it definitely is harder to kill when the bishop is inside of it. And we still one-shot it with a single Inferno Feint, so we're pretty happy about that. Looks like we did a little bit less than 2 health bars. Not bad. We do need to buff up again with Inferno Feint. We should be able to get it off before this. I guess I didn't want to tempt fate. Okay, we go back in. That is what he's casting right now is irrelevant if you're going to kill him, but that was going to be a... Once he gets to lower health, he can cast a couple more spells. That one was going to be a... what is the name? Maelstrom. It was going to be a Maelstrom. Obviously, dangerous. Maelstrom, you can line of sight, though. If you know he's casting Maelstrom, you can just walk around the broken rubble towards the door. The entrance to the room, I mean. And it'll give you... it'll just put the big tornado on the other side of that tiny column that's sideways. And it'll completely prevent you from getting sucked in. You have to bait it over there, obviously, but it's pretty funny. It's very easy to do. As before, we have Predation, so every critter we kill is 100 health. It makes the critters extremely valuable. And so because we were at I think we're at like 1800 health. We're gonna do that. These leapworms, all of the creatures that are in the safe rooms, they will not attack you. They will get very close to you. But I could stand here all day, and these leapworms actually won't jump at me. So normally I perfect block to kill those leapworms, and you see there I'm punching them. That's because they won't actually come at me, bro. But with that, we're gonna top off our health here. Well, up to 4K. Not completely topped off. We're missing about 1,000, but that's okay. But that's gonna be the end of part 2 of the Bitterblack Isle run. We just have part 3 to go, the last wing. But that's going to be it for our first video here. We're going to cut it now because it's already approaching 2 hours, and we don't need a 3.5-hour video. But with that, I hope you guys did enjoy. Thanks for watching. I do stream these runs live over at twitch.tv/localticobrohe. Come check us out. I hope you all have a good one, and hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.